Hello and welcome to Introspective Lifeworks. Today we are going to discuss what is an empath and how do you know you are an empath. What is not an empath is a highly sensitive person. And this is someone who can feel energy, but they are unable to interpret emotions. So they don't really feel emotions, but they do feel the energy shifts when they enter a room. They can usually tell you if there's something going on in one corner that's not good. So I thought I was a highly sensitive person all my life. I had other gifts, but I did not have any clue that I was an empath until I went to an energy healer after I went through cancer. And cancer, I feel, was like, hey lady, wake up here. You have things you should be doing and accomplishing in this life, and you are not. So we are going to give you a timeout for you to wake up spiritually, which actually is what happened. So let's begin with what is an empath. An empath is someone who takes the negative lower energies and transmutes them into higher vibrational energies. An empath actually comes into this life with that main purpose of transmuting the lower negative energies of the earth to higher, more positive frequencies of the earth. And a lot of the empaths don't even realize this is what they're doing. And this was the case with me for years and years and years. I was doing this unknowingly, but I didn't release the negative energy. It stuck to my etheric body and my aura, and eventually it gets through and causes disease. And I believe that is one of the reasons I got cancer. So I'm being very sensitive today. My eyes are watering because of the air conditioner. There are lots of things that come with being an empath, and being very sensitive to your environment is one of them, and we'll discuss that in a little bit. So when I went to the energy healer, she told me physically everything that was wrong with my body. I had just begun to research and understand that we are energetic beings having a spiritual, we are energetic being, a spirit having a human experience. And I asked her, not even having a clue what the answer was going to be, so what do you see in my energetic body? And she looked at me and said, you are an empath. So when I look at your energy body, I see all this black, gluey negative energy sticking to the outside of your energy body. And this is what's causing you to feel the physical ailments you feel. At that time, I was suffering with fibromyalgia. So we went through the energy session. It took about 35 minutes, and I could feel the energy moving up and down my body. And when she was working on my chakras, I could feel it. It was an amazing experience. I only had to go back to her one more time, and then I learned to take care of my spiritual being as well as my physical body. And I will discuss that also, why it is important, if you're an empath, that you do develop spiritual rituals to take care of your spiritual being. Okay, moving on to, there are different types of empaths. There's just not one type of empath that fits it all. So we are going to break down the different types of empaths. The first one I'd like to discuss is the emotional empath. And an emotional empath will feel another person's energy and emotions. So let's say you get around somebody that's vibrating much, much lower than your vibration. You can actually experience like a physical symptom, like your stomach may start turning. You may feel an overall need of just being very tired all of a sudden, and you know intuitively you must get away from that person. Or you come across somebody that has a vibration that's equal or higher to your vibration, and when you're around them you feel really energetic and happy, and you found a match. You're aligning with their energy. It's a good thing. So this is an example. Let's say you go home from work one day and you're getting ready for supper, making supper, and your loved one comes home and they say hi and you say hi and they go to get ready for supper, but you feel like there is something wrong even though they didn't say anything to you. And this feeling, you can't get away from it. So when they come down to sit down and have supper with you, say it's one of your kids and they tell you, yeah, I had a bad day, I got bullied today. Well, you picked up on that. You felt that emotion and that energy that comes with that emotion, because everything is energy. So let's move on to the next one. The physical empath. This empath takes on the physical pain and ailments of another's body. Let's say, for example, I was at work one day and all of a sudden my knees started hurting, and I thought, oh no, not this again. Later that day, I ran into my coworker who I'm like in communication with and kind of like a friend outside of work with. And this coworker tells me that their knee is really hurting them really bad today. Well, I realized then when I leave work and my knee no longer hurts, I was actually picking up on their pain and their suffering. And in some cases, you can actually give them relief because you take that lower vibration away from them. This is just one example of being a physical empath. You can also feel different types of physical things. Like I was listening to an empath talk about, she walked through a room and she could tell, all of a sudden she felt like she was ovulating, and she knew she wasn't, but she was picking up on another woman's energy. So let's move on to the next one. So the next one is the intuitive empath. This type of empath picks up both emotional and physical energies from others, but they also go a step deeper and they can psychically know things about others through premonitions. Now, there are different areas we are going to break down this intuitive empath with. So let's move on to the first one. The first one is the telepathic empath, and this simply means you can pick up and read other people's thoughts and know things before they happen. This one I say is like nowadays when I feel somebody's energy, like I will feel one of my friends' energy just boom hit me, and then 2 minutes later the phone will ring and they'll be calling me. This means psychically I've connected to them before they've actually made the phone call to me, but I know it's coming. When I was in my 20s, I had no idea about this stuff, and I was working in a pizza franchise, and a lot of days I would be over by the phone making pizzas, and I would stop, take the order pad, write a name down, and a minute later the phone would ring and it would be that person ordering a pizza. And I never really thought anything of it. I was in my early 20s and it really wasn't no big deal to me. And I was usually alone during the day. I was a daytime assistant manager, so I didn't really get to show this off to anybody either. Now we will move on to the next. The next is the precognitive empath or intuitive empath. This means these empaths can receive messages about the future, premonitions about the future, either well awake or during their dream state. And if you have this gift and you receive these things as a dream, I would advise you as soon as you wake up to write it down, because if you're anything like me, when I wake up I forget everything. Rare occasions I remember, but usually the minute my feet hit the floor, it's gone. So let's move on to the next one. This is a dream empath, and it's a little bit different than the previous one, the precognitive empath, which receives premonitions about things that are going to happen. The dream empath will receive dreams about things that are happening to them or to their family that are in the process of happening. It's not in the future. So when they're in their dreams state, they have very vivid dreams. I had a weird experience with this once. I was having a big conflict in graduate school with a professor. And being an empath, the minute I entered her class, I knew there was going to be a lot of problems with her and I. And I knew why, and it seemed ridiculous and crazy because of the times we're living in, but I just knew it was going to happen, and it did. I wrote a paper, and she said that I did a lot of plagiarism on it, and she was trying to get me expelled from school. So I had to write and state my case, because this was all online, with the head doctor of the school. And I sent off my email with all of my statements and what I had to say about this. And that night when I went to sleep, it was like I was there giving my statements in person to this panel of doctors and explaining what was happening to me and why it was happening to me and what I felt was really behind everything. And it felt so emotional, and so it felt so real. Like I was thinking to myself, is this happening in the Akashic records or what? What is going on here? This just seems so real. When I woke up in the morning, I just knew everything was going to come out in my favor. And later on in the day, the doctor sent me a statement saying they did not find any way that I had violated the rules, and to just continue to keep up the good work. The same professor did this again to me, and I was really careful now, and I had everything documented and everything, all my P's and Q's and everything dotted, and there was like no way she was going to get me. But I knew she had this thing out for me, and the next time she got reprimanded by the head doctor. So it turns out I was very upset about all this, and I went to one of my mentors that is a psychic medium, and I told her what had happened to me, and she told me that this person and I had a soul contract, and what had what had transpired between the two of us was actually a soul contract to teach her something. Even though I had to go through all that stress and agony and not knowing if I was getting kicked out of graduate school, knowing I didn't do anything wrong, and I'm a person that likes to stand up for people's rights, and I don't like to see anything that's not right happening. So it turned out okay, but it was a soul contract. So sometimes when we come across things in our lives where we don't understand and we're really going through hell with it, it's because we're an empath and we're meant to go through this to help the other person grow or develop spiritually. So let's move on to the next one. The next one is the medium. This type of empath has the ability to connect with those that have passed on, or what we say here on earth, have died and left the physical body. Their spirit body is on the other side, and in order for them to communicate with a medium, they have to lower their vibration, but the medium also needs to be at a very high vibration in order to connect with spirit, and they can receive information from spirit. And this usually involves the clairs, which I will do a video on the clairs. But a medium is somebody that communicates with spirit of those that have passed on. And I do believe mediums can even be labeled as a channeler, and they can channel other types of energies if you believe in those kinds of things, which I didn't when I started out my journey, and now I'm starting to understand there's a lot of energy out there in the universe, and we can tap into it unknowingly every day. So let's move on to the next category of empaths. We are done with the Intuitive Empath, and we will be moving on to Nature and Earth Empaths. Now, a Nature Empath, there is the type of empath that connects to plants. They can actually feel the energetic fields around the plants. They can feel the plant's essence, and I believe some of these people, they truly love their plants, and they intuitively always know what's going to work to heal their body, or if they're a healer, what kind of plants to heal somebody else's body. I love plants, but I don't communicate with them. But I do love them, and I give them my love, and I have a green thumb, and they grow beautiful. And I am still learning a lot more about plants, because I truly believe that food is our medicine. So the next type of empath is an animal empath. And these types of people can communicate with animals. My daughter took her dog to a groomer that is a psychic animal empath, and she told her that the dog was generally happy. He just thought it was a little bit noisy in the house, which they have 5 kids, so I could see Chewy having that perspective from time to time. But me being an empath with high energy vibration, whenever I go to my daughter's house, that little dog is glued to my side, and I always send him love and healing energy. And they just recently got another puppy, and she loves me too, so I do not have a problem with animals loving me. I just don't communicate with them, but I do share my love and try to send them high vibrations. Now, the next type of empath is the Earth Empath. And these types of empaths feel the Earth's energy. They can feel the weather changing. They can feel hurricanes or earthquakes coming. They can tap into the solar system and feel the moon phases or the planet phases. For me, when I was in my 20s, there was a period of time where my right hip would just begin to really, really ache. And I was young and I was like, what is going on here? Eventually, I put it together, and this was my forewarning that there was a hurricane coming to hit the United States. I did not live on the coast, I lived in the middle of the country, yet I could feel these hurricanes coming 3 days in advance. And the minute the hurricane hit the shore, the pain just completely was gone. And I didn't have a problem until the next hurricane hit. And I am so glad I don't have that gift anymore. But when the moon changes, during the new moon, I have a little bit more energy. And during the full moon, I get a little bit anxious and just weird. It's just a weird, different type of energy I feel. It affects me. And sometimes with the planets going retrograde, I do feel that energy on occasion, and I know there's something different going on out in the universe. So let's move on to the next topic. You will see a bunch of questions come up on this video, and I would like you to answer yes or no if you feel like taking this quiz to discover if you are an empath or not. So let's begin. The first questions: do crowds drain you and make you feel you need to get away and go off by yourself to recompose and regain your energy? Yes or no? Have others named you an introvert or shy or sensitive? I always use this story when I talk about being sensitive to energy. I always say if I walked into a funeral of a complete stranger, I would feel all the grief and pain and suffering, and I would start crying just as much as all of the other relatives. So, yes or no? Now, this is a question. Often you feel you do not fit in. So, do you feel like perhaps you didn't fit in with your family, or you don't fit in with everybody that you work with? You just feel like you're different and you just don't fit in. This is a starseed question too. Yes or no? I may have a tendency to overeat to cope with stress. This is a very high concern for empaths, because a lot of empaths will overeat because it actually puts up like a protective barrier for their energy. So a lot of empaths do it and don't even realize they're doing it. It's linked to stress, but it also, the extra padding helps protect their energy. If that sounds weird, sorry. Yes or no? Do you have a tendency to become ill by being around yelling and arguing? Can it make you sick? Yes or no? Many times do you experience an overwhelming feeling or anxiousness? The corona thing we're going through right now, and me being an essential worker and having to put on a mask every morning before I walk into work has created very high anxiety in me, and I've had to figure out how to take control and calm myself down so I don't have an all-out panic attack. So if things other than what we're going through with the coronavirus can overwhelm you and make you feel anxious, just answer yes or no. Do you have sensitivities to the textures of your clothing? My son is very, very sensitive. He can only have silky clothes on his skin or he has a fit. So I do believe he probably inherited my empath gifts. So if you have a skin sensitivity to the textures of your clothes, answer yes or no. Now, does sound or like a constant babbling, loud noises, strange smells, those types of things, can they really overwhelm you? Just make you want to get away? Yes or no? Do you get startled easy? I do. My 15-year-old son, I will be working on something and he will sneak up behind me and say, "Mom," and I just about fly out of my seat and all over the place. So do you get startled easy? Yes or no? Are you highly sensitive and have a strong reaction when you drink caffeine? Yes or no? Do you have a strong reaction to medicines, pharmaceuticals? Yes or no? I do. When I first found out I had fibromyalgia, I started taking the drug called Lyrica. It did relieve the pain in my body, but it made my brain feel crazy, and my intuition said, do not take this drug anymore. So I sought a natural remedy, which actually worked really good. So, do you react strongly to medicine? Yes or no? Do you have a low tolerance for pain? That means, do you really freak out about pain, or are you just one of these strong, quiet types? Me, I have a phobia of needles. I don't like the pain from the needles. I will never have a tattoo because I don't like that pain. So, do you have a strong reaction to pain? Yes or no? Do you prefer isolating yourself socially, like staying home instead of going to a big football game, going to some place where there's a lot of people? You prefer to stay home, or maybe you're just a homebody like me, but I do get anxious and don't like that energy I feel when I walk into a huge crowded place. I would prefer being at home in my peaceful little space. So do you have that same preference? Yes or no? When you go out in nature, do you feel that nature has a way of reviving you, making you feel energized, giving you peace and tranquility? Yes or no? When you're around others, do you sense their needs? Can you sense when somebody needs something? Yes or no? Have you ever been told by somebody that they feel like you can read their minds or you know what they're thinking? Yes or no? Do you feel sometimes you attract people or circumstances that use your gifts to help solve their problems or change the circumstance and make it better? Yes or no? Do you have any other psychic gifts, such as the clairs, which I will do a video later about that? But there's clairsentience, clairvoyance, and we'll get into that all later. But if you have any of those psychic gifts, you will know it. So, yes or no? You sometimes have a fear that if you become intimately involved with somebody, you will feel like you're being suffocated. And by suffocated, I mean you have trouble sleeping in the same bed with somebody because you can't relax and rest because you feel that other person's energy the whole night. Or that, well, if I ever get married again, which there is a big question mark there because I'm a Sagittarius moon and we love our freedom. We don't like to be caged in, so it would have to be a very special man that would not be wanting to lock me up and cage me in to let me have my freedom. One of the negotiations before the marriage that would be put on the table and would, I feel, very desperately need to be communicated would be about having our own bedrooms and not sleeping together, because I probably would never get any rest because I would be feeling that person's energy all the time, and I'm very sensitive to sound and everything, and I have my own little way of doing my sleeping and my little rituals to help me sleep and protect me. So yeah, that's a big question. Do you have trouble with intimate relationships? Yes or no? Do you prefer to interact one-on-one or in a small group rather than being in a large crowd? Say you have some sort of public job and you would prefer to work with a small group or one-on-one rather than a large group. Yes or no? Now, to calculate your test, if you had 5 or less, you are of the yes answer, you are a partial empath. If you have 6 to 10 yes answers, you are a moderate empath. And if you have 11 to 15 answers of yes, you are a strong empath. But if you got all 20, or 15 to 20, I should say, of yes, you are a total and complete empath, and you probably most likely have some spiritual gifts. So this concludes, do you know if you are an empath or not? Now let's move ahead to what to do if you are an empath. Now, if you're an empath, there are important things you need to learn to do to protect yourself against negative energy. I will be doing videos on centering, grounding, cleansing, all of the things that are important things for an empath to do to keep themselves in a high vibration and protected, because in the astral plane we look like little bright beacons of light, and this attracts the good things to us, but it, I feel, can also attract things that don't want your little light to shine. So I think it's very important that you learn how to ground, center, and take the things you need to do in your environment serious to protect yourself. Now, not everybody is going to have the same gifts at the same time. I think as we develop and grow spiritually, we change. And like I said before, I used to be able to feel when a hurricane was going to hit. I no longer experience that, but now the full moon and the new moon energy affects me. And I do think a lot of this too goes where our intention flows, so does our energy, and we bring those things to us. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it and you learned something. And looking forward to the next video in love and light. Bye.